What's going on today, YouTube? Rob here. Happy Tuesday. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a deck profile for you. And this deck profile is a redo of my Elemental Hero Hero Strike 3-copy structure deck, as my original upload was a different video and I didn't catch that until recently, so I decided to redo that. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. And before we get started, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing for more fun content, and maybe liking this video and leaving a comment on what you might want to see next. Now, without wasting any more of your time, let's get into it. Alright guys, let's get into this Hero Strike Elemental Hero deck profile. So first off, we're going to start with 3 copies of Elemental Hero Heat. He is a 4-star monster whose effect reads, this card gains 200 attack for each Elemental Hero you control. This is just a really good starter to get onto the board, and just a good monster when you have multiple copies of him on the field, or you have just any other Elemental Hero on the field. He's good to have. And then we have 3 copies of Elemental Hero Avian. Avian is only really in here for your Great Tornado, and there's no other real reason to have him in here. And then we have 2 copies of Elemental Hero Shadow Mist. This is like your searcher for the deck. So this card allows you, if this card is special summoned, you can add 1 change quick play spell from your deck to your hand. And if this card is sent to your graveyard, you can add 1 hero monster from your deck to your hand, except for Shadow Mist, and you can only use 1 Elemental Hero Shadow Mist effect per turn, and only once that turn. Next, we have 2 copies of Elemental Hero Neos Alias. This card is treated as a normal monster while face up on the field or in your graveyard. While this card is a normal monster on the field, you can normal summon it and have it become an effect monster. With this effect, this card's name becomes Elemental Hero Neos while it's on the field. Next, we have 1 copy of Elemental Hero Ocean. Once per turn during your standby phase, you can target 1 hero monster you control or in your graveyard and return that target to the hand. Ocean is really good for recycling cards, and that's why he's in the deck, but I only have him at 1. But again, you can change that to whatever you like. Next, we have 1 copy of Elemental Hero Woodsman, who allows you once per turn during your standby phase, you can add 1 polymerization from your deck or graveyard to your hand. So again, good for recycling. Then we have 1 copy of Elemental Hero Wildheart. This card is unaffected by trap effects, so I find that this is just good to have as a one-of, just in case your opponent traps you into certain situations. As long as Wildheart is on the field, he is unaffected by trap effects. Then we have 1 copy of Neospatian Grand Mole. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can return the opponent's monster and this card to the hand. So this is just really good at removing cards off the field for at least the duration of the turn. And yeah, that's just why it's in here. Kind of drawback about this is if you use this effect, it obviously bounces your Grand Mole back to your hand as well. But at the same time, you can just use this the next turn if need be. And for our final monster, we're going to put, or at least I'm playing, 1 copy of Elemental Hero Blade Edge. So if this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. And again, this is kind of like your boss monster in terms of regular effect monsters and normal monsters in your deck. So that's just the reason I play one. Yeah, it's just kind of there so that you can have something with some decent attack without having to go into your extra deck. Now let's move on to the spells. So we're going to start off with one copy of the Warrior Returning Alive. This allows you to special summon, target one warrior type monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And then we have one copy of Reinforcement of the Army, which allows you to add one level 4 or lower warrior type monster from your deck to your hand. And all of your monsters, aside from Blade Edge, are level 4 or lower, and they are all warrior types. Then we have one copy of Form Change. This allows you to target one hero fusion monster you control and return it to the extra deck, and then special summon from your extra deck one masked hero monster with the same level as the monster that you used with this effect. And this is treated as a special summon with mask change. Then we have one copy of Heated Heart. This allows you to target a face-up monster you control, and until the end of this turn, that card gains 500 attack. And if it attacks a defense position monster, you inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. Then we have two copies of Oversoul. This allows you to add one elemental hero normal monster in your graveyard and special summon it. This is only really for your Avion, as every other monster is an effect monster. Then we have one copy of Righteous Justice, which allows you to destroy spell and trap cards equal to the number of elemental hero monsters that you control. Lastly, for our hero package, we have Emergency Call at 3, and this allows you to add one elemental hero monster from your deck to your hand. Now we have 3 copies of Mask Change, which allows you to target one hero monster that you control and send it to the graveyard. Also, after that, if it left the field by this effect, special summon one masked hero monster from your extra deck with the same attribute as the one that you sent to the graveyard. And this is different if it's face down, or it's whatever the original attribute is if it's face down. Then we have 3 copies of Mask Charge, which allows you to target one hero monster and one change quick play spell, and that's in your graveyard, and add it to your hand. So again, this is good for recycling cards. Then on to our fusions. We have 3 copies of Polymerization, which allows you to fusion summon a monster from your extra deck. And then we have 3 copies of Miracle Fusion, which allows you to which allows you to banish monsters from your graveyard or field in order to fusion summon monsters from your extra deck, as long as they are elemental hero fusion monsters. And lastly, we have 3 copies of Parallel World Fusion, which allows you to fusion summon one elemental hero monster from your extra deck by shuffling banished materials into your deck. And that's it for our main deck, 40 cards. Let's move on to the extra deck, which is full 15 and consists of pure fusion monsters. Our first fusion is Masked Hero Darklaw. This must be special summoned with mask change and cannot be special summoned other ways. Any card sent to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead of sent to the graveyard. Once per turn, if your opponent adds a card or cards from their deck to their hand, except during the draw phase or the damage step, you can banish one random card in your opponent's hand. Then we have 3 copies of Masked Hero Koga. So this guy allows you to, it gains 500 attack for each monster that your opponent controls, and once per turn during either player's turn, you can banish one hero monster from your graveyard and then target one face-up monster on the field, and that target loses attack equal to the amount of attack of the monster that you used for this effect. Then we have 3 copies of Masked Hero Divine Wind. This card cannot be destroyed by battle, and your opponent can attack with only one monster during each battle phase. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you get to draw 1 card. Then we have Contrast Hero Chaos. This card allows you to once per turn, during either player's turn, you can target one face-up card on the field and negate that target's effects until the end of this turn. Contrast Hero Chaos requires 2 masked hero monsters, which means you would have to use 2 of your fusion material cards, or fusion cards, as materials to be able to fusion summon this card. And lastly, we have 3 copies of Elemental Hero Great Tornado. He is your Elemental Hero Avian target. So this requires 1 Elemental Hero monster and 1 Wind monster. Must be fusion summoned and cannot be special summoned by other ways. And if this card is fusion summoned, have the attack and defense of all face-up monsters that your opponent controls. And that's it for this deck. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and a comment on what you would want to see next. And as always, I will see you in the next one. That's game.